All right, good day. Um, Today, January 4th, 2023. And before I take down my Christmas lights that I had up for this year, starting my first year, starting with the Pixel lights. Um, Ooh, what happened there? There we go. Starting this year with the Pixel lights, I thought I'd go over my actual light display, what type of models I have up, and how they're wired, and basically what I use to actually control my light display. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and start off over here in my yard with an overall first looking at the overall picture, if you want to call it that. So this is my house here. I'm in a rural area. I don't live in a city or anything like that. We are on the outskirts of a small city of about 5,000 people, and we're in the rural part of the area. So a lot of trees. And as you can see, I got a lot of branches on the ground. We had a windstorm come through here a couple days ago, and we got another one coming in tonight, that is expected to get very, very windy here. During this time of year, we do get quite a few windstorms. And they can get up to 50, 60 mile an hour gusts that come through here. Those are Douglas firs that are surrounding my house. They're not on my property. They are off of my property, and so I can't exactly chop them down, because I do have a panicky when it gets really, really windy. I do sometimes, my heart does go into palpitations, as I am concerned that one of these trees, one of these days, is just going to come tumbling down. The soil we have here is it's a sandy type, loam type of soil, and the roots for Douglas firs don't go very deep. They're not very deep trees. There's a lot of gravel that's underneath our soil here, so the roots don't go deep, so they do have a tendency to kind of topple over. When we first moved here back in 2007, we actually there used to be a tree that was parked right there, right where that spot is, right next to that telephone cable thing is right there. Used to be a tree right here. And we actually had a windstorm that actually knocked that entire tree over. Fortunately, it did not hit anybody's house. It fell over onto the road here, laid across, and was sticking into our culvert or roundabout back there. And yeah, so that was quite the spectacle. A welcome to the neighborhood type of deal. But so yeah, my heart will be pounding again. So we do get a lot of branches that come down off these trees, and because they are firs, we get a lot of pine cones and a lot of pine needles. Just believe it or not, this roof was cleaned a couple of weeks ago, and now look at it. It is like covered again in needles. So my lot in life. But anyway, I do not have a roof line lights out on my house yet. Like I said before, I had gotten a late start on pixel lighting with my house, and didn't really start this until November. So very late start for me. And next year will be a little bit more. I don't have a roof outline for lights yet. I do have Permatrax that I did order that are inbound. They should be here Friday, and I'll be installing pixels permanent tracks to outline my roof here, at least the front of the house anyway. I don't do the back of the house because it's all trees back there and nobody can see it anyway. But what we have here is I do have around our garage door, I do have an outline of pixel lights that are around the door. We do have the 36-inch star from Boscoil that is above the garage there. It is a six, if you want to call it ring, a 6-ring star. So 270 pixels or individual lights that are in that star. The two stars that are on the one on the left and the one on the right of the front door there are the 24-inch Boscoil 3-ring stars. Each of those is 96 pixels. We do have the 4 candy canes that are here, also again Boscoil. 99 pixels for each of the candy canes. They are basically a 3, I won't call them rings, but they are basically rings, 3-ring, 3-row candy cane. 99 pixels each. I have the 3 hanging lights or singing lights from, again, Boscoil. 1 standing and 2 hanging. Each of those are 170 pixels. And over here we have the snowflakes from, again, Boscoil. The middle one is a 36-inch snowflake that has 96 pixels in there. And then the 4 23-inch snowflakes, those are... each of those are 48 pixels each. And they're all strung together in one port. So, and then a close-up of my garage door here with the pixels. I got some pixel strips here that I got from Boscoil that I just stapled into the wood outlined here, so it just sits snugly. There are 192 pixels around this door, all ran on one port, and then the star up there, which runs on its own port as well. The wiring I have hidden behind here, so it's out of sight. The snowflakes and the stars, I have vinyl siding, so they're held up by vinyl siding clips that go underneath the vinyl siding here, and I just have it held on by the wire. This was, again, a temporary thing for this year. So these stars, they're on the side of the door. I don't get too much wind in this part here, so each of those are held up by one clip. These over here are held up by the same clips. Each one of those stars are held up by 2 clips on each of them. They're in the middle. For example, this star here, you'll see a clip here and then a clip over here. And that's what's holding that up. And that's how that is for each of those. Believe it or not, that is how that star up there is held up. It is only held up by 2 of the vinyl siding clips, and that is, it actually held it very well with that one windstorm that we had come through. The star here, this leg, the bottom right leg there, is a little bit bent, and there was a mistake on my part. When I got these, we have electric baseboard heat, so I had placed that star kind of in front. I won't say exactly in front, but a couple of inches in front of the baseboard heater. And so overnight, it got that star heated up, unfortunately. And these are coral, so it's a very kind of plasticky type of deal. And of course, it kind of bent as it was standing on the 2 bottom legs. And so it got warm, the coral plastic heated up, got warm, and it caused the leg to bend, and it stayed that way. I mean, you know, you can't really tell from the road, from the front. It's not bent that bad. So basically, what I have, so these 4 candy canes of 99 pixels each all run into one port. So I've got one cable that runs to the first candy cane. And on the first candy cane here, what I've got is I have a power injection cable. This is running to the control box. This is my power injection cable that comes from the control box before plugging into my first candy cane. The data and the power continue through, but only the power gets also cut off or carried forward on this line as well. And so I use that as what's called, I guess, self power injection. So 200 lights, no, 400 lights, because again, these are 99. So for 396 lights on one port being power injected at the very back. So as you can see, this power injection cord, I have it here spliced here with an extension cable, and gets powered injected here at the back at the last candy cane. So the first 200 get, I have enough, I run these at 25%. So these are very bright, no signal loss, no color loss, nothing turns yellow or red. So power at the front and power injected at the rear. So all the lights get lit up. And so each continuing on to the next one, and then continuing on to the next one, and then continuing on to the next one. And in between, I just have pigtails that are basically, each of these are pigtails that are kind of put together using these little Scotch locks, which are weatherproof and did very well. No signal loss, held up with the rain and all that stuff, so very good. I didn't put these in very deep into the ground here, so they are a little bit loose this year. Again, my first year doing this, so this was trial and error, kind of learn as you go, and ended up getting some, I won't say rebar, but they're just poles I got down at the local hardware store, zip tied in through the little holes here in the candy canes, so they're held onto the pole is dug into the ground, and I'll dig them deeper next year so that they stay up a little bit better. Really, this candy cane here is the only one that's really loose, but that's because there's gravel. There's a big rock underneath that one there that the pole is hitting against. So, and again, 400 lights going into one port. These are 99 pixel lights, or 99 pixels for each of the canes. The Boscoil, or basically any model or something like that you get, you're not going to have perfect 50 pixel models or 100 pixel or anything even like that, because when you order the lights or the pixels, you can get them in either 100 pixels in length or 50 pixels in length. Matos, they sell them also in 25 pixel lengths. So unfortunately, the numbers don't line up with the models, so you always have extra pixels. And I did not want to cut one pixel off at the end just to, run lights this year. So I do have a null pixel at the very end of each of the lights. So that pixel does not turn on, and they're set up configured as 99 lights, even though there are 100 or 300 channels per candy cane running. Each channel is one channel for R, one which is red, one channel for G for green, one channel for B for blue, RGB, 100 lights, 300 channels, but really only running 99 of them on per candy cane. And but it does make an issue when configuring the controller and configuring X-Lights, is that, X-Light sees these only as 99, not 100. So you have to, you have to fudge around with the controller, because every time you update X-Lights, it likes to update the controller, which screws up the lighting sequence, and then you have to go back in there, the controller, to say, okay, yeah, it's 100, but the last one is not on. So these, the singing bulbs, like I said, they're 170 each. So I have this first one here. This is one of the backups. This is on its own port. It's running on a single port by itself. And since there's only, it is here, self-power injected again. Power running in at the front, as well as I got these self-power injectors from Matos. You can get these cables from Matos, and basically they allow you to inject power at the very last of the line as well. So 170 lights, self-power injected. These two here, so these two here are plugged in. They're to each other here, and they're running off their own one single port as well for these two. So 340 pixels running off of these. Power injected here, power running in through the front with self-power injection running into the last pixel here. 170 pixels, again, I run at 25%, so it does come up white like it needs to. So no issues as far as not having enough power. It is sufficient for one port to power both of those at the same time. I would not have done three like that. It wouldn't have been enough. Plus the amps, I have to be concerned because each of these ports are 5 amps. This star, which is plugged into behind here, going down into this star. So these are running off of one port. Not a big issue, 48 pixels per star, so more than enough power off the one port to power both stars. Okay, those lights. So we have, did I say 48? No, these are 96. These are 96 per port, so 200, 192 for one port. It hasn't been an issue. I did not see any real problems with the whites not really being white. I really don't run white that often in my displays. If anything, I like to make the lights silver. I have swapped out yellow for gold and white for silver. So I have not run into an issue where these things are pink or red because not enough power, at least for these two here. These, so we got 48, so, and then 48, and then 48, and then 96. So you got close to 300 pixels here that I run off of one port. And it is self-power injected as well. So this right here, again, coming from the controller, running this self-power injected cable plugged into the first snowflake, This snowflake then runs to the second snowflake. The second snowflake running into the third snowflake. Again, these are the 23-inch snowflakes running down into the fourth snowflake, which is then running into the big 36-inch snowflake 96, with the power injection coming also here. So it's getting power injection at the very end. So I'm getting enough power to power all of that stuff. And again, it comes up really good. And no signal loss, no power loss to any of the pixels. Everything comes up like it should. So I don't run everything steady white at 100% because that would just basically light up the entire neighborhood. My lights run at 25%, which is bright enough for this little area of the neighborhood. You can see it pretty much at the end of the street at 25%. So now my garage and my big star here is running a very long cable back to my controller. It is more than 20 feet. I did have to install a null pixel here for the garage and then there for my star. Each of them on their own port. I did have to run that null pixel to get the signal data integrity to maintain, because I was getting flickering at the very end over there. I am running, again, self-power injection for this. So I do have a self-power injection wire that runs at the start of the garage. And that cable runs all the way through and around down to the bottom. So I am running, again, power at the start and power at the end for these 192 lights, which works out very well. And the same thing with the star. Self-power injection there we have at the first of the light, with that cable running to the end of the light. So 270 lights with that self-power injection in there, which works out pretty well. But I think there is an issue with my data on that line because it does flicker. Not so much because of power, but because I think of data. Unfortunately, I got too late for this season. I did pick up a smart receiver. A Culp smart receiver that I got in, I would say just before Christmas. But it was kind of too late to really do anything for it this year. So I'll be sticking a smart receiver here. I have an ammo box that I picked up. So one power supply, one smart receiver. I'll stick that here so that way I can run network cabling from the controller to the smart receiver and not have to worry about signal or data loss or anything like that. And then that way I can also run, because I do want to run, the vertical lines down the side of the house, this side, and the end of the house over there, and then run a vertical line at the end of the house there, and I want to run a vertical line there right where the house, that 90-degree turn there, as well as run a permanent track along the front of the roof line here. And then I will have to run up there at an angle and come back down. So I did order enough vertical permanent track to cover the front and here. It's 30 feet from there to there, and then 20 feet from there to here. So, and then later on this summer, I'll get some more permanent track so I can run from there to at least the roof outline of the garage. I won't be too concerned with, the outline of the top of the roof, Mainly because, again, because of the wind that we get here and branches that fly off those trees and pine cones and all that stuff. Is a chance of, hitting the lights and smashing stuff and stuff like that. So, I'm going to play that by ear, because I don't know how it's going to work out, but, I do want to get at least the roof outline done this year. I also want to get some leaping arches so I can put that in front. And another thing I would like to do is to get a tree, a mega tree, probably not so mega, but put a mega tree up here, maybe something like 6 feet or so, nothing too grandiose, because what comes up you also have to take down. And I'm starting this very late in my life. I'll be turning 60 here in a couple of months, and at my point in life, I don't want to be messing around trying to put up some 12-foot or 10-foot aluminum tree with hundreds and hundreds or thousands of freaking lights. So I think a 6-footer will be just fine. And it's only because it's only going to be up for a couple of months of the year anyway. And then possibly maybe some mini trees, because then I'll move those candy canes, because this year I had the candy canes kind of going along there, but I don't like that. Just don't like how that came out. So I'll probably just run like candy cane, mini tree, candy cane, mini tree, candy cane, mini tree, like out here in the front, along with the leaping arches, and then a mega tree. And I think that might be sufficient. I was thinking about maybe some peace stakes. I don't know. Maybe I might run peace stakes along the sidewalk here. I might do that just to kind of give it an outline and stuff like that. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that is that's my lights that were set up. What we do now is we'll go and we'll take a look at the controller that I managed to, as I'm holding my hand over the camera lens. This is my control. I set up a controller box. It's a Bud box. It's the 26. It's the big Bud box. So I'm running a Colt 32 on 4 power supplies, 32 ports, 2 power cables that come out of there, and then 4 network ports that these will be the network ports here. One will be for, of course, the input, and then the other 4 will be for outputs. So that smart receiver will plug into here. There's the network jacks. I have to figure out some way to kind of keep those dry if I'm going to be working with network cables, because definitely don't want water getting into that stuff for sure. I ordered this I ordered the parts individually, because this year, or this past year, what with the supply chain issues, as well as the issues with chip shortages, parts were hard to come by. So I ended up ordering these piecemeal to get a box made. Most of them did come from Wired Watts. Oops, as you can see by the sticker there, Wired Watts. And this is my controller. This is my Colt 32. I am running this on, of course, the BeagleBone Black. And this is the network input from here, but I do run this, I have been running this wirelessly. There's my wireless antenna. What I'll probably end up doing is making a small hole so I can stick that antenna out. just so I can get a fairly decent signal. I do get a signal because it's right out. It's on my porch here. It's right outside my house. My end goal would be to stick that in the corner over here because that's my outlet right here in the front. I run wireless 6E here at the house, and I do have a few, I don't want to say repeaters, but it's wireless mesh, so I do have a few units for the wireless throughout the house, and I can get the wireless all the way out, I can get the wireless up to about a block away. So I should be good by sticking it there in the corner, because this room here, this is what we call our computer room. It's really our I have a computer in there. My son has his computer in there. My wife has her computer in there. These are computers that I built for us. Plus my home media server is in there. And so we just call it the computer room, though, it's more than just a computer room. And I do have a wireless mesh unit inside that room right there. So I should be good with the signal out here, even with everything closed and blocked off. So this is the Culp32 board. And then I have Meanwell 350 power supplies, 350 watt. I'm running everything on 12 volt, 4 power supplies, 2 here, 2 there. They are offset here. So here in the front, you can see one power supply here and another one there, one here and another one there. CCL controllers. They had they do a Culp build with this board, the Culp32, with Meanwells inside a bud box, and but CCL was not selling anything this year. They stopped selling stuff back in April because of the shortages and stuff like that, and their website still shows that they're not accepting any orders. So the mounts, like this clear acrylic mount here, and then the mount on the bottom, are not CCL mounts. So I wasn't able to do exactly how they did theirs. Plus the wiring out here in the front, the way the holes were made, were a little bit different than how CCL does their holes. I prefer how CCLcontrollers.com, how they got their holes created for their plugs. Wide Watts, they did everything on the bottom. Every cable comes out of the bottom, which is a mess. It really is. And it's not organized right, because you got 2 ports right here. And I run, this is port 1, this is port 2. And then the rest of the ports are over here. So I would have preferred how CCL does theirs, where they had 8 ports per row, right? This is a 32 port board. So 8 ports per row. I would have been able to wire this up very nicely, better than how Wired Watts has theirs. And they have and CCL has the network ports on the side, not on the bottom. And, then these are the 2 power cord plugs right here on the bottom. It was really difficult wiring this up. And Wired Watts does not give a layout or instructions on how this is assembled. So it's like, okay, well, what gets plugged into what? What's the top? What's the bottom? Blah, 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 blah. So this took me a little bit longer to do than normally would have, but I did get it figured out. I'm running, this is an SD card extender here. I'm running 64 gig SD card. Kind of overkill, but that's how I do my stuff anyway. I do a lot of stuff overkill, just for room to breathe. And then, like I said, this is right now running wireless, and will probably stay wireless. I don't want to be running network cabling outside of my house, just to plug this into my home network router. And you know, I don't want to be drilling holes, because then, you know, this is my garage that's on the side here. On the other side, on the inside of that wall there is the garage, and I don't want to be drilling holes just to run network cabling. So this will stay wireless, and then I'll just network the smart receivers from here that will go out into the yard eventually. I'll probably have to get another build box going if I plan on doing a mega tree, because you'll be looking at, it'll be a 180, it won't be a 360 mega tree that I put in the yard, because again, who's going to be looking at the tree from the back? People will be looking at the front. So about a 180, maybe 16 strands. Depending on how I wire it up, 8 ports maybe, 2 strands up and down, 1 up, 1 down per port. I'm thinking 100 bulbs per strand, or 100 pixels per strand. Power injection at the self-power injection at the end of each of the second strand. So 8 ports, so I'll probably need to set up another controller for an 8-port controller just for the tree. Yeah, or 2 smart receivers, because each smart receiver will have 4 ports. So if I run 2 smart receivers in an AV type config, because this does have 4 network jacks for smart receivers. Okay, there is a separate DMX plug here somewhere. I'm not messing with DMX at this point in time. I don't know if I ever will at this juncture, but for sure, so I can run 4 outputs for network, each of those going to a smart receiver, and smart receivers can be daisy chained, so I think I should be good for that. And then this is an FM transmitter that is right here. I do have a little cable here, or a little wire that I did solder into the FM transmitter, running out through the side vent here, and this is the cable, or the wire that I got going up and wrapped up in there. And I get a pretty good signal that runs to the end of the block, which is all that I really need for that FM signal to go to. I don't need to transmit any further than that. So I do have this transmitting on 107.1 FM, because that is in this area, that is an empty radio space that I can use for self purposes. So, and when the show, or when my display is not running, it is set to play music from the internet using a plug-in, after show plug-in for my FPP. And you just plug it, you just tune it to, you tell it, okay, broadcast this radio station from the internet on this, at this particular channel. So that's what I got there, and of course my Wi-Fi antenna there. So this was enjoyable to build. I like building stuff like this. It interests me. And it's a little sad that I got a little bit late into this, but hey, it is what it is. I got time now that I'm retired, that I can fiddle with stuff like this. I do have on my window there, my main window here, these lights. These are twinkly lights. You get them off Amazon. And so I had them set up in a way almost a matrix-like. They're not very close together. They're held up by Scotch tape on the window. but as close together as I could try to do this as a spur of the moment type of deal. So this kind of was a mini matrix that I could display, designs and moving pictures and all that stuff with. For here, we do run twinkly lights on our tree as well. This is 250 twinkly lights. That's one strand of 250. My Christmas tree is running 400, a strand of 400. For that, it's actually two strands of 200. You order them as a 400 box, but it's two strands of 200. No, it's not. No, I think it is one strand. Or maybe two strands coming off of one controller plug. I think that's what that is. And so the tree, I had this synced up along with my tree. So the tree displayed the same thing that was being displayed on the window: candy stripes, rolling patterns, reindeer moving, stuff like that. So, just to kind of add a little bit more stuff. I will probably add some pixels on the window outlines this next year as well, just to give it a little bit more of a, something to look at. I did have one neighbor come over saying they were kind of appreciative of having house lights up, because nobody else in the neighborhood around here really had any lights up. They had their Christmas trees up that you could see through the window, but really nobody else had a house light up. And I was basically the only one in the neighborhood here this year that put up lights for their, for the season. So next year, then what I'll do is, now that I have a year, at least a full year, I'll be able to get some sequencing done, because I really didn't get any sequencing done. I was just like, okay, I ain't got time to try to sequence to music. But this year, I'll try to get some songs sequenced. I'll need to get a sign for, hey, tune to this radio station to hear the song along with the lights. I only got, I tried to do the Phineas and Ferb Christmas Vacation one, but I only got halfway through that. I just did not have the time. And that's the one thing with this little hobby is time. It can be a time sink. Sequencing lights, because each of these are what they call addressable pixels, addressable RGBs for each light. They're not dumb lights, they're smart lights. So it's not like one strand, one color light at all times. It's like you can set this up to do whatever you want it to do. Each light, again, the RGB spectrum, millions of colors to choose from. Each light can be their own color. So trying to get all that sequenced up, it's a time sink. Especially when you try to get it all of the models into one cohesive, display. The candy canes, are they synchronized with each other? The singing lights, the white one in the middle is the main singer. The two black ones on the side are the backups, and are their mouths moving in time with the music and the words of the songs? And so it is very, very time consuming. For one song, depending on how much time you put into it, it could take a couple of weeks. So that'll be something that I'll be doing for this coming year, is getting that done, as well as really readjusting my display for the upcoming year, and really getting those permanent pixel lights put up on the roof outline, because I definitely need to get that done, because no Christmas light display is worth its salt without that roof outline. It really just sets everything apart. Otherwise, it's just that. But yep, that was my display for this year. And as I go through the year, I'll try to do some more. some more videos. I wish I had done a video on the building of the Culp box from Wired Watts inside the Bud box here. I wish I had done that because I could not find any instructions or any other video that dealt specifically with a Bud box and a Wired Watts mounting system and how they have their holes drilled into the case. Like I said, CCL Computers was the closest I could find for a Culp build using the 32 port board. But again, they had their own mounts that they make for their Bud builds, as well as how they drill the holes inside the case. So maybe this year I might just take this thing apart and just do a video just to show what I did, so that if anybody does any Wired Watts using this type of build, then it might be a little bit easier. I definitely will do one as I build out my smart receiver in the ammo box with my smart receiver from Culp. That will be interesting. And another thing I'm looking at doing is picking up a 3D printer to make brackets and mounts, instead of buying them online. It's, buying them online you're waiting on the time it takes for the order, and then you got to pay for the shipping and all that stuff. And by that time everything's said and done, I could have just printed them on my own and be done with it. Just buy the STL file and print my own, and buy one STL file. You buy it one time and print forever. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. It would have to be using PETG plastic instead of PLA or anything like that, because it's outside, UV environment and all that other stuff, and the heat. So, because these, believe it or not, it's cold out here right now. It's probably in the 20s. But this box is on. It is transmitting music as I'm looking at this box. This box is on. The power is plugged in. It is transmitting music still. And the temperature on the board, because I do monitor those temperatures, they averaged around 85 degrees through the season for the board. So yeah, it stays toasty inside that little box there. And so where's my train of thought? As I make that Bud box with the ammo, it's a plastic ammo can. It's not a metal ammo can, so I'm not too concerned about heat retention. It is Harbor Freight. See, Gilbert Engineering has a link on their website to another website that sells mounts for like Gilbert Engineering and Boscoyo Elements. They sell mounts, and they do sell a mount for a Harbor Freight ammo can for putting in a power supply and boards, whether it be a Falcon board or receiver or something like that. So I'll be looking at using that. I bought a Harbor Freight plastic ammo can. That website, what is it? Insight? Oh, I forget. But when I do that video for making that, because I do have to drill the holes for the wires and the electrical. Yeah, got to have that electrical plug and the network cabling, and then of course the ports, because that smart receiver can do has 4 ports on there. Plus you can daisy chain smart receivers, so there's another hole for another network cable, not just the input but also the output for running into another smart receiver that can be a mile away. Not really a mile, but you get my gist. Because when you run smart receiver, the nice thing about Ethernet cabling is that you can run these things, you can run cabling up to about 250 feet without any loss of data or anything like that. So whereas if you're just using the regular wire, you start running into issues when you start hitting 20 feet or so of just regular electrical wiring. So, because that data signal gets degraded over a certain length. Not so much the power, but the data. Because you have 3 wires. You have one for power positive, one for ground, and one for the data itself, the data itself that runs from the controller to the lights, telling it, okay, this light, on, off, intensity, color, and stuff like that. So, and that has to run from one light to the next light to the next light to the next light. And each light will act as a resistor. So each pixel sort of takes away from that power and data signal you lose as you traverse down the line, which is why you have to power inject. If you run over a certain amount of pixels, you need to power inject, because what starts off at 12 volts at the front gets, by the time you're at the end of a 200 pixel string, you might be down to 7 volts or even under that. And that's when your whites start turning pink or even red. Just not enough power. So that's the problem with electrical, that type of wiring over long distances, is that data signal does get degraded. Unlike Ethernet, where it's just Ethernet, and you can run that for up to 200 feet without any issues. And then that just plugs into another board, which has its own power supply, and running, the lights running off of that power supply as well. So yeah, fun. I enjoy it. And again, it keeps me busy, and it keeps the brain juices flowing, which at my age helps. I like to try to keep the brain sharp, instead of slowly degrading away into a pile of mush. But that is my light display. That was my lights for year 2022. We're now into 2023. I'll be taking down most of the lights. I will probably leave up the stars for the holidays, like Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day, because, a star can be used for all of those. Valentine's Day, I may put up I don't know about Valentine's Day. I may put up the candy canes, because with the candy canes, with the lights, again, because you control how the lights are done. As I cover the lens again, you control how the lights are done. You don't have to light up the entire candy cane. I do have this set up, what they call sub models. So I have a sub model created that lights up to this. So, and I use that as a candle. So all the lights from down here to the bottom light up like a candle and flicker. And so none of the lights around the arch here light up. So you wouldn't even see that it's a candy cane from a distance. You just see the little candle flickering. So I may do something like that for Valentine's Day. I don't know. Maybe I might pick up a heart from Boscoyo or Gilbert. I don't know. But I do want to run an actual matrix. Probably along the side. I'll move the snowflake someplace else, and I'll put up a matrix on the side here, so you get some really nice looking designs and flow. Hundreds of lights in that matrix that will just, it'll, from a distance, everything will, you can run videos. It'll look like almost like a video without actually being a video. I mean, that's all TV is. It's just a bunch of lights. But yeah, so 2022 in a nutshell. Working on 2023. And as I go along, I'll keep posting my little journey to, good Lord willing, Christmas of 2023. Thanks. We'll talk to you all later. Ciao.